The alien hall shimmered with silver light. Inside, tall alien warriors stood in a half circle, their armor glowing faintly blue. They were sisters, daughters of the Xeron war clan, known across the galaxy for their pride, their skill, and their sharp tongues. And tonight, their target was a single human. Captain Rex stood at the center of the hall. He looked out of place, his uniform plain compared to their shining armor, his hands bare, his face calm. But his calmness only made them laugh louder. Lyra, the eldest sister and leader of the group, leaned forward from her throne-like seat. Her hair shimmered like liquid silver, her eyes burning with a teasing glow. "So you are the famous human everyone keeps talking about," she said, her voice both smooth and mocking. "You talk big, Captain Rex, but talk means little here." Rex didn't move. He simply looked up at her, his tone steady. "Then let me prove it." The other sisters laughed, their laughter echoing off the metal walls. One of them, younger and hot-headed, stepped closer and crossed her arms. "You prove something to us? You humans think too much of yourselves." Rex turned his head slightly, meeting her gaze without blinking. "Thinking too much is how we survive." The hall fell quiet for a moment. Lyra tilted her head, watching him carefully. There was something different about this human. Not fear, not arrogance, but a strange confidence. A kind that came from experience, not ego. She rose from her seat and walked down the steps, her armor making a faint hum with each move. She stopped right in front of him. "Then prove it," she said again, her voice lower now. "Prove you are more than words. How?" Rex asked. Lyra's lips curved into a small smile. "In my room tonight." The room erupted in whispers and laughter. The sisters exchanged glances, some amused, some shocked. The youngest one gasped, "Lyra, you can't be serious." But Lyra didn't take her eyes off Rex. "He wants to prove himself. Then let him. My room is my ground. If he survives the night, I'll admit humans are more than talk." Rex didn't flinch. His expression stayed unreadable. "Fine," he said quietly. "I accept," the sisters murmured again, this time more curious than mocking. Who was this human? Why wasn't he afraid? No one entered Lyra's private chamber without permission, and those who did never came out with pride intact. Lyra turned sharply. "Follow me, human," she said, her voice echoing like a command. Rex followed her as the heavy metal doors slid open with a hiss. The light behind them dimmed, and shadows stretched long across the floor. As he stepped through the doorway, the sisters' whispers grew louder. "He's doomed. She'll break him. No human can handle her." The doors closed behind them with a sharp thud, sealing the hall in silence. Inside, the air was cooler. Lyra's room wasn't like any normal chamber. The walls pulsed with soft blue veins of light, alive with alien energy. Strange symbols glowed faintly, written in a language no human could read. In the center stood a round table covered with weapons, blades, staffs, plasma whips. Each one hummed quietly as if breathing. Lyra turned to him. "You've entered the den of a warrior," she said. "Here, words die. Only strength speaks." Rex glanced around slowly, then back at her. "Maybe strength isn't just about weapons," Lyra smirked. "Then what is it about, human?" He took a small step closer, his voice calm. "It's about control. Knowing when to fight and when not to." Her expression flickered only for a second. She wasn't expecting that answer. Every warrior she had ever known equated strength with dominance. But this human was different, too calm, too focused. "Control," she repeated softly. Then she picked up a glowing blade and pointed it at him. "Let's see how long your control lasts." The weapon hummed, its light reflecting in his eyes. But Rex didn't move. His heartbeat stayed steady, his hands at his sides. Lyra circled him, studying him like a predator measuring prey. "Do you know why I challenged you?" she asked. He shook his head. "Because your people think emotions make them strong," she said. "Compassion, love, mercy, we call those weaknesses." Rex's reply came quiet but firm. "Then maybe that's why we keep surviving, and you keep fighting." Her blade stopped midair. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The air between them felt heavy, not from anger, but from something sharper. Interest. Challenge. Lyra lowered her weapon slightly. "You think you can teach me?" "I think you already want to learn," he said. She stared at him, a human daring to talk to her like an equal. The glow from the walls danced across their faces, making her eyes look almost human for a second. Then she turned away, her voice suddenly quieter. "Let's see, Captain," she said. Let's see if your kind truly deserves its reputation. Rex didn't respond. He simply waited, calm and steady. Lyra looked back at him, almost smiling. You have courage, she admitted. I'll give you that. He nodded once. Sometimes courage is all we have. The silence stretched again. Outside, the alien sisters waited, listening through the metal walls. No sounds came from inside, no fighting, no shouting, only the faint hum of energy. Minutes passed. The younger sister leaned against the wall and whispered, What do you think is happening in there? No one answered. They just watched the sealed door glowing faintly blue, wondering what test their leader was putting the human through, and whether he could really survive it. Because in all the years of the Zarin clan, no man, human or alien, had ever walked into Lyra's chamber and come out the same. Tonight, that might change. The air inside Lyra's chamber felt heavy, like a living thing watching from the shadows. The walls glowed with faint blue light, shifting and pulsing as if they breathed. Every surface carried a mark of her victories. Blades from fallen enemies, armor plates scarred by plasma fire, strange crystals that hummed with energy. It wasn't a room. It was a history of conquest. Rex stood still, his eyes adjusting to the glow. Lyra watched him closely, moving with the quiet grace of a predator. Her armor caught the light, giving her an almost otherworldly beauty. Strong, sharp, and proud. You're calm, she said, circling him slowly. Most men tremble before the test begins. I'm not most men, Rex replied simply. She stopped behind him, her voice dropping low. So I've heard. The stories say humans have a way of surviving anything, that you bend but you never break. I want to see if that's true. Rex turned his head slightly, meeting her eyes. And how will you test it? Lyra lifted a hand and touched the wall. The lights dimmed, replaced by soft red glows. In the center of the room, a platform rose from the floor, humming with energy. This room tests more than strength, she said. It reads fear, pain, doubt. It finds your limits. Rex studied the platform but didn't move. And what happens when it finds them? Her lips curved into a faint smile. It pushes them until you break. He gave a slow nod. Then let's begin. Lyra stepped onto the platform first. The air shimmered around her as alien symbols lit up beneath her feet. She reached out her hand to him, a silent command to follow. Rex hesitated only for a heartbeat before stepping up beside her. The moment he did, the floor beneath them vibrated, sending a deep pulse through the chamber. The wall shifted again, changing shape. The room transformed into something else, a holographic battlefield. Ash and smoke filled the air. Ruined ships burned in the distance. It felt real, smelled real. The test had begun. Lyra's voice echoed around them. This is a memory. One of my battles. I fought here when I was 16. My enemies outnumbered me 10-1. She picked up a glowing spear from the ground and handed it to him. Let's see how your human courage works in real fire. Rex gripped the weapon. It was heavier than it looked, humming with alien energy. You're not fighting ghosts, he said. You're fighting yourself, she laughed. A low sound that carried both challenge and respect. Then fight with me, human. The battlefield came alive. Figures formed from light and smoke. Armored soldiers roaring as they charged. Lyra moved fast, her spear cutting through them with precise strikes. Rex followed her lead, adapting to her rhythm. His movements were slower but efficient. He didn't fight with rage. He fought with calm focus. Lyra noticed it. She struck down another phantom, then glanced at him. You don't enjoy battle, do you? Rex swung the spear through another illusion. No, but I do what I must. That answer caught her attention more than any show of power. For her, war was pride. For him, it was duty. The simulation intensified. The enemies multiplied, their weapons glowing hotter. Lyra moved with unmatched speed, but even she started to slow under the endless waves. Rex saw it. The slight shift in her breathing, the edge fading from her strikes. He stepped forward, blocking a blow aimed for her side and pushing her back. Behind you, he said quickly. She spun and struck, her blade meeting the phantom's chest. For a brief moment, she looked at him differently. Not as an enemy, not as a rival, but as a soldier who stood beside her when no one else would. When the last phantom vanished, silence returned. The battlefield faded, and the room turned blue again. Lyra's chest rose and fell as she breathed hard, her silver hair clinging to her skin. You fought well, she said quietly. Rex nodded, his voice steady. So did you, She stared at him for a long moment. You didn't have to help me. You could have let me fall, he replied softly. That's not how humans fight. We don't win by leaving others behind. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in thought. Strange, she murmured. Among my people, strength is measured by how much you can endure alone. And among mine, he said, it's measured by how many you can lift when they fall. She looked away, silent. The glow of the walls cast her shadow long across the floor. Something inside her began to shift, a doubt she didn't want to name. Finally, she spoke again. You're different, Captain Rex, no fear. No ego, just resolve. He shrugged lightly. Maybe that's all humans have left when everything else is taken. Lyra studied him one last time, her expression unreadable. Then she turned toward the far wall. The first test is done, she said. But there are more to come. Don't think this means you've impressed me. I didn't come to impress, he said. I came to understand. Her hand froze midair. That sentence hit her harder than the battle had. She glanced back at him, her voice lower now. Be careful, human. Understanding me might be the hardest test of all. The lights dimmed again, the walls humming softly like a heartbeat. Outside, the sisters still waited, unaware that something inside that room had already changed. Not just between warrior and challenger, but between two worlds slowly beginning to see each other in a new light. The hum of the chamber softened after the battle faded away. The air still carried traces of energy from the simulation, a quiet vibration that felt alive under the skin. Lyra stood at the center of the room, her breathing steady again, her face unreadable. Rex waited a few steps away, his eyes calm, his posture relaxed but alert. For the first time, Lyra didn't speak immediately. She just watched him. The silence between them was different now, heavier but not hostile. There was curiosity in her gaze, the kind that only comes when someone sees something they didn't expect. You didn't fight to win, she said finally. You fought to protect, even when the battle wasn't real. Rex nodded slowly. That's how humans fight. We don't fight for glory, we fight for each other. Lyra tilted her head, her silver hair shifting with the movement. Strange words for a warrior. You should care about victory. He looked at her, his expression steady. Sometimes victory costs too much. Sometimes it takes everything that makes you human. The words hung in the air. Lyra walked past him, her fingers brushing the glowing wall. The blue veins brightened slightly, reacting to her touch. Humans speak of heart and feeling, she said quietly. But heart makes warriors weak. It blinds them. It gets them killed. Rex turned toward her. Maybe. But it also makes us stand up again when everything's lost. She glanced back at him, her eyes narrowing slightly. You believe that? Even after losing? I've lost more than once, he said softly. Friends, battles, places I called home. But each loss taught me something, that pain doesn't end you. It builds you. For a moment, Lyra didn't reply. Her gaze dropped to the floor, and the glow from the walls reflected faintly in her eyes. Your words sound like hope, she said, almost in disbelief. In war, hope is the first thing to die. Rex took a slow step closer. Not for humans. We keep it alive even when everything burns. Lyra turned fully toward him, her voice quiet but firm. You talk like someone who has seen too much fire. He didn't deny it. I have. That's why I know peace isn't weakness. Lyra's jaw tightened. Peace is a lie. The galaxy survives on conflict. Power keeps order, Rex shook his head. Power built on fear never lasts. It only delays the next war. Her eyes flashed. Then what do you build on? He didn't hesitate. Trust, Lyra frowned. Trust gets you killed. Rex gave a faint smile. Maybe. But it also saves those who would have died alone. Something flickered in her expression like a shadow crossing light. She turned away again, walking toward the far corner of the chamber where a large crystal stood glowing faintly red. This crystal records my victories, she said. Every fight I've won, every life I've taken. It reminds me who I am. Without it, I am nothing. Rex studied her face. There was no pride in her tone this time, only weariness. And who are you without the fight? He asked quietly. Her eyes hardened again, but the silence that followed said she didn't know the answer. He stepped closer, his voice soft but firm. You don't have to prove yourself to be strong. Sometimes strength means walking away from the battle. Lyra's lips parted as if to argue, but no words came out. For the first time, someone had spoken to her not as a soldier, not as a leader, but as a person. The idea unsettled her. You think you can understand me, human? she said finally, her voice colder again. I don't need to, Rex replied. I just need to listen. That simple answer struck her harder than any weapon. She stared at him for a long moment, trying to read his face, trying to find deception or arrogance, but there was none, just calm truth. Lyra exhaled slowly, the glow from the crystal fading behind her. You humans confuse me, she admitted. You bleed so easily, yet you speak as if the universe belongs to you. Rex smiled faintly. It doesn't. But we survive because we believe it could, if we make it better. The room fell silent again, but it wasn't the cold silence from before. It felt warm now, almost alive. Lyra's mind drifted for a moment to her sisters outside, waiting for her to emerge victorious. They would never understand what was happening in this room. She barely understood it herself. She looked back at Rex and asked quietly, "Why didn't you try to defeat me?" He answered without pause. "Because I didn't come here to beat you. I came to show you what humans really are." Lyra folded her arms, her gaze softening slightly. "And what are you?" Rex's voice stayed steady. "We are fragile. We are foolish. But we never give up. Even when the universe tells us to stop." She stared at him for a moment, something shifting behind her eyes, something that looked a lot like respect. Then, without warning, the lights flickered and the chamber trembled. A deep rumble shook the floor, and symbols along the wall began to glow red. Lyra turned sharply toward the door. "Someone's trying to enter," she said. Rex stepped beside her. "Your sisters?" She nodded once. "They must think I've killed you already." He smiled slightly. "Then maybe it's time we show them what really happened." Lyra hesitated, her hand resting on the control panel. For a brief second, her eyes met his. There was no more mockery in them, only quiet understanding. She pressed her hand to the panel and the heavy doors began to open. The sisters outside waited to see what their leader had done to the human. None of them were ready for what they were about to see. The heavy metal doors slid open with a slow hiss, and the light from the hall spilled into the chamber. Lyra stepped out first, her silver armor gleaming under the dim glow, followed by Rex, calm and unshaken. The alien sisters waiting outside went silent. Their mocking smiles faded when they saw the expression on their leader's face. It wasn't anger and it wasn't pride. It was something they had never seen before. Calm respect. The youngest sister, Vena, broke the silence. "Sister, did he fail the test?" Lyra didn't answer. She just looked at Rex, then turned back toward her sisters. "The test isn't over," she said. "But he's still standing." Whispers spread through the group. No one had ever stood after facing Lyra's challenge. Rex met their gazes quietly. There was no arrogance in his face, only quiet strength. That made the aliens even more curious. Lyra motioned for the others to leave, but Vena refused. "You can't be serious, sister. He's just a human. He must have used tricks." Rex spoke before Lyra could. "No tricks. Only truth." The sisters frowned, confused. Lyra finally said, "Enough. The human speaks with more honor than most warriors I've met." That sentence silenced everyone. Lyra rarely praised anyone, not even her own kin. She turned and gestured for Rex to follow her again, deeper into the inner part of her chamber. The sisters watched as the doors closed behind them once more. Inside, the room had changed again. The glowing walls dimmed into softer tones, revealing a mural etched into the metal, an ancient battle scene. Rex moved closer, studying it. The carvings showed warriors like Lyra fighting strange shadowed creatures. At the center stood a tall figure holding a crystal heart. Lyra noticed his gaze. "That is the story of my people," she said. "The first war. We were born from conflict. It gave us purpose, shaped our laws, and took everything that made us gentle." Rex looked at her. "You mean it took away your heart?" Lyra's voice dropped. "Perhaps. Our ancestors believed emotion was the seed of weakness. They erased it. For generations, we were trained to fight without feeling. We were told mercy kills, love distracts, and hope blinds." Rex studied her face. "And you believed that?" She paused, eyes tracing the mural again. "I had to. Until today." He didn't speak. He just waited. Sometimes silence was stronger than words. Lyra turned away from the wall and sat on a stone bench. "Do you know why I called you here, human? It wasn't just to humiliate you. It was to prove something to myself." Rex took a step closer, his tone steady. "Prove what?" "That humans are foolish," she said. "That your kindness, your endless trust, your hope for peace, then all of it is weakness. I wanted to see it crumble in front of me so I could feel right about what I've done. He frowned slightly. And did it? Her voice grew softer. No, it made me doubt. Rex looked around the chamber again at the trophies, the weapons, the glowing walls that pulsed like a heartbeat. You're surrounded by victory, he said quietly. But I don't think it makes you happy. Lyra's eyes lifted toward him. Happiness is a word we don't use. Then maybe that's what you've been fighting against all along, he said. She blinked, caught off guard. What do you mean? You've been fighting your own heart, Rex said. Trying to silence it because your world told you to. Lyra stood slowly, her armor whispering against itself. You think you know me, human, after one night? Rex shook his head. I don't need to know you. I can see it in your eyes. Her expression hardened, but only for a moment. Then it broke. A faint tremor crossed her lips, something between frustration and pain. You shouldn't talk like that, she said. If the High Council hears, they'll call it treason. Then let them, Rex replied calmly. Truth is always dangerous to those who live in fear of it. Lyra turned away again, gripping the edge of the bench tightly. You speak as if you've faced your own kind of war. Rex nodded slowly. Every human has. Ours aren't always fought with weapons. Sometimes it's with loss, loneliness, or the will to keep going when it hurts too much. Her shoulders tensed. She wanted to dismiss his words, to mock him again, but she couldn't. Everything he said made sense in a way that her world never had. You fight pain with hope, she said finally. That's your weapon, he nodded. And you fight hope with pain. Maybe it's time you put that weapon down. The silence that followed was different this time. It wasn't a clash of ideas, but a quiet connection forming between two souls from opposite worlds. Lyra lifted her gaze again. Do you ever stop believing? She asked. Rex smiled faintly. Not until I stop breathing. For a long time, she said nothing. Then quietly she asked, if what you say is true, if kindness isn't weakness, what does that make me now? Rex's voice stayed calm. Someone brave enough to question everything. The walls pulsed brighter, reacting to her heartbeat. Lyra stepped closer, her face inches from his. You make dangerous words sound simple. They are simple, he said. You just forgot how they feel. Her eyes lingered on his, searching for something she didn't know she needed. When she finally spoke, her tone was softer than before. Maybe I did. Outside the chamber, the sisters waited again, hearing nothing but silence. They didn't know that inside those glowing walls, their fierce leader wasn't fighting anymore. She was finally learning what it meant to stop. And for the first time in her life, Lyra didn't feel like a warrior. She just felt human. The chamber had gone quiet again. The blue light along the walls had softened to a faint glow like calm waves in the dark. Lyra stood near the crystal mural, lost in thought. The sharpness that once filled her eyes had faded, replaced by something gentler, something uncertain. Rex stood a few steps behind her, silent, giving her space. For a long moment, neither spoke. The silence wasn't awkward. It was heavy, filled with words neither dared to say. Lyra finally turned to face him. You've changed how I see things, she said quietly. I don't know if I like that. Rex met her gaze calmly. Change never feels comfortable at first. She gave a faint smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Among my people, comfort means weakness. We were taught to live in pain, so we never grow soft. He nodded slowly. And how has that worked for you? Her smile faded. She looked away. It's lonely, she admitted. Every victory feels hollow. Every celebration ends in silence. I command thousands, but I don't have a single person I trust. Rex stepped closer. That's the real battle you've been fighting, isn't it? Lyra didn't answer, but her silence said enough. The proud warrior who had once mocked humanity now looked small, almost fragile. The armor she wore suddenly seemed like a cage, not protection. Rex said softly, Where I come from, strength isn't measured by how many enemies you defeat. It's by how many lives you protect. She looked back at him, her eyes searching. Then why protect me, human? What am I to you? He didn't hesitate. Someone worth saving. Those 3 words hit harder than any blow. Lyra's breath caught. No one had ever spoken to her like that. She wasn't used to warmth. She was used to orders, fear, control. But this human, he spoke as if she was something more than a title, more than a warrior. Her voice softened. You don't even know me, Rex replied gently. I don't need to. I can see the kind of person you could be if you stopped letting the past define you. Lyra took a slow step toward him. The glow from the walls brushed across her silver hair, making it shimmer like moonlight. You talk like a man who's lost too much, she said. Rex gave a small nod. Maybe that's why I understand you. She looked into his eyes, and for a brief moment her defenses broke. I lost someone too, she whispered. My younger sister. She died in the First War. I was the one who trained her. I told her not to hesitate, not to feel. When she fell, I realized I had taught her how to die, not how to live. Rex's voice was quiet. And you've been carrying that guilt ever since. Lyra nodded once. Every victory since then has felt like a debt I can never pay. He took another step closer. Maybe the way to pay it is to forgive yourself. She frowned slightly. Forgive? That word has no meaning in our language. Then it's time your people learned it, Rex said. Because without forgiveness, no one ever finds peace. Lyra looked down at her hands, scarred and strong. Peace, she repeated softly, as if testing the sound of the word. It feels strange even saying it. Strange isn't bad, Rex said. It means something new is growing. Lyra met his eyes again. And what if I'm not ready for that? He smiled faintly. Then I'll wait. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The air between them felt alive, charged with something deeper than words. It wasn't romance, not yet. But it was connection. The kind that happens when two souls recognize the same scars in each other. Lyra took a slow breath. You speak of peace, of trust, of forgiveness. These are dangerous ideas in my world, Rex shrugged lightly. Maybe your world needs a little danger. She let out a quiet laugh. You're either very brave or very foolish. Maybe both, he said. Lyra looked away again, trying to hide the small smile forming on her lips. You risked everything by stepping into this room, human. You could have died. Rex's tone stayed calm. I knew the risk. But sometimes the risk is worth the truth. Lyra turned back toward the mural, staring at the carved crystal heart in its center. The truth, she murmured. It's not as simple as you make it sound. It never is, he said. But it's always worth finding. For a long while they stood in silence again. The hum of the chamber had softened to a gentle rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. The tension that once filled the space had faded, replaced by quiet understanding. Finally, Lyra broke the silence. My sisters will not understand this. They will question me for showing mercy, Rex replied. Then tell them mercy isn't weakness, it's power without cruelty. She looked at him, studying his face carefully. You speak as if you've led armies. I've led people, he said. Sometimes that's harder. Lyra's eyes softened again. You remind me of what my people once were. Before the wars, before the pride. Then maybe that's what you're meant to bring back, Rex said. Maybe you were never meant to just fight. Maybe you were meant to guide. The idea made her quiet. For the first time, the warrior of Zayron didn't feel trapped by duty. She felt the faint spark of something she hadn't known in years. Hope. When she finally spoke again, her voice was almost a whisper. You make it sound like I still have a choice. Rex smiled gently. You always did. You just forgot. Lyra looked at him one last time, and this time, there was no pride left in her eyes. Only gratitude. Outside, her sisters waited in confusion, unaware that something inside their leader had changed forever. Inside, the proud alien warrior and the calm human soldier stood in silence. Two souls from different worlds, bound by something neither had expected, understanding. And as the chamber lights glowed softly around them, the walls seemed to hum in agreement, as if even the room knew that something rare had just been born in the heart of war. The light in the chamber began to shift again, turning from calm blue to a soft golden hue that made everything seem alive. The air felt warmer now, as if the room itself sensed the change between them. Lyra stood silently near the glowing mural, her armor reflecting faint traces of light, while Rex waited a few steps away, watching her with quiet understanding. For the first time, Lyra looked uncertain. The warrior who once challenged a human with arrogance now stood still, lost in thought. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to hide it. She finally spoke, her tone low. You've changed something in me, human, and I don't know if that's good or dangerous, Rex replied softly. Sometimes both are the same thing. Lyra turned her gaze toward the sealed door. Beyond it, her sisters were still waiting, whispering, imagining 100 different endings. She knew what they expected. For her to emerge victorious, the human defeated, her pride restored. But that wasn't the truth anymore. Something far more powerful had happened in this room, something she couldn't explain to anyone else. "You're not afraid," she said after a moment. "You never were." Rex smiled faintly. "Fear is only strong when you run from it." She looked at him, her expression softening. "You speak as if you've faced it many times." "I have," he said. "Every soldier has. But fear teaches us who we are." Lyra stepped closer, her eyes reflecting the golden light. "And what has it taught you?" "That even in the darkest place," he said, "someone has to carry the light." The silence that followed felt heavy yet peaceful. Lyra's eyes lingered on him, reading something honest and unshakable. Then suddenly the door panel glowed red, a signal from outside. Someone was trying to enter. Lyra stiffened, her composure returning like armor snapping into place. "They're impatient," she said. "My sisters will break the door if I don't answer soon." Rex stayed calm. "Then open it," her head turned sharply. "If they see you like this, standing beside me instead of kneeling in defeat, they will question everything. I command my honor, even my loyalty to the clan." Rex stepped forward, his tone steady. "Then let them question it. Change always starts with someone's courage." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. "You don't understand. My people don't respect change. They fear it," Rex replied quietly. "Then maybe they fear what they should be learning from." Something in his words struck her deeply. For a moment, the proud warrior looked like a woman trapped between duty and truth. She turned toward the control panel and hesitated. Her hand hovered over the glowing switch. "Once I open this door," she said, "there's no going back. Whatever they see, whatever they believe, it will spread." Rex gave a small nod. "Then make sure it's worth spreading." She stared at him one last time before pressing her hand to the panel. The metal door slid open with a slow hiss. Light from the hall spilled inside, washing over them both. The sisters stood waiting, their faces full of curiosity and disbelief. Lyra stepped out first, her silver armor gleaming, her expression calm. Rex followed her, steady and silent. The sisters gasped softly when they saw him standing beside their leader, not broken, not defeated, but alive and strong. Vena spoke first, confusion in her voice. "Sister, did he surrender?" Lyra shook her head. "No, he fought beside me." The word sent a ripple through the group. They looked at each other, whispering in disbelief. "Beside you?" "That's not possible," one said. "No outsider fights beside the blood of Zeron." Lyra raised her hand and the murmur stopped. "It is possible," she said firmly. And it happened. The silence that followed was thick and uncertain. Vena stepped forward, her expression tense. "Then what did he prove?" Lyra turned toward Rex. "He proved that strength isn't just power. It's restraint. It's heart." Her sisters exchanged confused glances. The eldest frowned. "You sound like him." "Maybe it's time we start listening," Lyra replied. The crowd of sisters fell silent. None of them dared argue, not when they saw the calm in her eyes. It wasn't submission, it was conviction, the kind that couldn't be broken by pride or tradition. Rex stood quietly beside her, saying nothing. He didn't need to. His presence alone spoke louder than words. After a long pause, Lyra said, "The human has earned our respect. He walked into my chamber with courage and left with honor. From this day forward, his name will be known among our people." The sisters bowed their heads slowly, uncertain but obedient. The youngest, still confused, asked softly, "What did he do to you, sister?" Lyra's eyes flickered toward Rex and a faint smile crossed her lips. "He reminded me what it means to feel alive." The sisters looked between them, unsure what to say. Lyra turned toward the hall, her tone commanding again. "Return to your duties." "This meeting is over." They obeyed, though their whispers followed her down the corridor. As the group dispersed, Lyra and Rex were left standing together near the doorway. "You could have lied," Rex said quietly. "Told them I failed." "I could have," she replied. "But then I'd still be living the same lie I challenged you to destroy." Rex smiled. "Then I guess I did my job." Lyra looked at him, her voice softening again. "You did more than that. You gave me something I didn't know I'd lost." "And what's that?" he asked, her eyes held his. "Faith." For a moment, neither spoke. The corridor lights shimmered softly around them, reflecting the quiet bond forming between two warriors from different worlds. Then Lyra turned, walking beside him down the hall. Her people watched in silence as their leader, the fiercest of the Zeyran, walked shoulder to shoulder with a human. It wasn't weakness. It was the start of something new. And though no one could name it yet, everyone could feel it, a change in the air, a shift in the way the stars themselves seemed to glow. The corridors of the Zeyran stronghold were quiet that night. The usual hum of patrol drones and mechanical guards had faded into distant echoes. Outside the great windows, the twin moons of the alien world floated over the horizon, their soft light washing the metal city in silver. Lyra walked slowly beside Rex, her armor unlocked and resting in her hands instead of on her body. For the first time in years, she looked less like a warrior and more like a woman simply breathing freely. Rex followed her in silence. There was no need for words. The events of the night had already said enough. Every step they took together echoed like a message through the empty halls. Something had changed, something that could not be undone. When they reached the upper terrace, Lyra stopped and looked out across the city. Below them, the spires glowed faintly blue, their energy veins pulsing like the heartbeat of a living world. She leaned against the railing, her voice calm but thoughtful. "My sisters will talk. The council will question me. They will demand to know why I didn't destroy you." Rex stepped closer. "And what will you tell them?" Lyra turned her head slightly, a small smile touching her lips. "That a human taught me what victory truly means." He raised a brow. "And what does it mean now?" She looked out toward the horizon. "It means walking away when fighting no longer makes sense." The breeze carried a faint hum from the distant reactors. The sound blended with the soft rhythm of their breathing. Lyra's hair moved gently in the wind, catching the moonlight like strands of silver fire. Rex watched her silently, realizing she wasn't the same warrior who had mocked him hours ago. After a long pause, Lyra spoke again. "You humans carry something strange inside you. You fight like you have nothing to lose but care like everything matters." Rex smiled faintly. "That's how we survive." She turned toward him. "And what happens when caring gets you killed?" "Then we die knowing it meant something," he said simply. Lyra stared at him for a moment, her expression soft but serious. "Your kind is dangerous in ways mine never understood." "Maybe not dangerous," he said. "Just stubborn enough to keep hoping." She looked down at the armor in her hands and then set it aside on the railing. "When I wear this, I am who they expect me to be. Strong, cold, untouchable. But right now, standing here, I don't feel like any of those things." Rex nodded. "Maybe that's a good thing." Lyra turned her gaze back to the moons. "Do you think hope can survive here? On a world built on war?" Rex stepped beside her, resting his hands on the railing. "Hope doesn't need peace to exist. It just needs someone brave enough to believe in it." She looked at him again, and for the first time there was warmth in her eyes. "You really believe that, don't you?" "I do," he said. "Because I've seen what happens when people stop believing." They stood there quietly for a while, watching the twin moons rise higher. Somewhere below, faint lights flickered through the streets as patrols resumed. The night was returning to normal, but nothing between them felt normal anymore. Lyra broke the silence again. "If I let them see you as my equal, they will call it betrayal. If I protect you, they will call it weakness." Rex glanced at her. "And what do you call it?" She hesitated, then answered softly, "Truth." He smiled. "Then that's enough." Lyra exhaled slowly. "I don't know what happens next. The council will summon me at dawn. They will want proof that the human threat is gone. When they find out it isn't, they will see me as the threat." Rex nodded. "Then I'll stand with you." Her eyes widened slightly. "You'd face my entire world for me?" "I've faced worse," he said. "Besides, you once said your people respect courage. Maybe it's time to remind them what that looks like." Lyra stared at him for a long moment, and then a faint smile curved her lips. "You're impossible, human." "Maybe that's why I'm still alive," he replied. The soft light from the moons washed over them, reflecting in their eyes. In that quiet moment, it wasn't about human or alien, soldier or warrior. It was about two souls standing at the edge of something new, something fragile but real. Lyra lifted her hand and placed it gently over his chest, feeling the steady rhythm beneath. "Your heart," she said softly. "It's loud. It doesn't fear anything." Rex looked down at her hand, then back into her eyes. "Maybe it's just beating for the right reason." Her breath caught slightly at his words, but she didn't move away. For a moment, time felt still. The stars above, the city below, the quiet wind between them. everything holding its breath. Then she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "If the council comes for me tomorrow, will you run?" Rex shook his head. "No, I'll be here." She nodded slowly. "Then whatever happens, we face it together." He gave a small smile. "Together sounds good." Lyra turned back toward the city, her eyes reflecting both moons. "You came here to prove something, human." "Maybe you did," Rex replied quietly. "Or maybe I just reminded you of something you already knew." She didn't argue. She didn't need to. The silence that followed said everything words couldn't. The wind shifted again, and the golden light from the moon stretched across the terrace, wrapping them both in its glow. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled softly, echoing through the alien night. Lyra whispered, "The galaxy won't understand this." Rex looked at her, his voice steady. "Then let's make them try." As the night deepened, they stood side by side beneath the moons. Two warriors bound not by war but by understanding, the kind that changes worlds. And though dawn would bring questions, challenges, and chaos, one truth would remain unshaken. That somewhere between defiance and faith, between alien and human, hope had finally found a place to live again.